This is A Few Good Fights. I'm your host, Rob, and I'm joined, as always, by Sean. Sean, how are you?
Hello, Robert. I didn't do the hello, babies, but
I like that one.
yeah, I'm alright. How are you?
Good. I'm not bad. Yeah, and I'm not bad because there is a good card on this weekend, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's Israel Adesanya against Yoel Romero. Of course, Adesanya defending his middleweight title, and we're going to break that one down. We're going to make our picks and talk about the co-main event as well, because that's a good one. Also, last weekend there was a horrible stoppage according to Big John McCarthy. We're going to break it down. Ion Cutelaba fought, and yeah, a lot of people think it was the worst stoppage in UFC history, and we're going to answer if it was, if it wasn't. And also, one more thing, Sean, I'm not sure if you've seen this. The UFC defended their position on fighter pay, but are they ripping off fighters? I want to get into that one because there's plenty to talk about there. Let's go. So this is the big MMA news, and I want to start with UFC Norfolk, which went down on the weekend, Sean. I don't want to get too far into it, but there is a few little pieces I want to talk about, and of course the main event is probably the main one, and also the fallout from that, because there's plenty of it. Deiveson Figueiredo beat Joseph Benavidez, who has had a lot of title fights and just can't get it done.
In title
yeah,
fights.
just cannot get it done. But the weird thing about this fight was the title was only up for grabs for one guy, and it was the guy that lost, Joseph Benavidez, because Deiveson Figueiredo decided, or didn't decide, just couldn't make weight. Is this potentially the worst result that could have happened for the UFC's flyweight division on Saturday night?
I think Benavidez would have been a very popular winner with MMA fans,
I think so.
and probably with the UFC. But MMA, unfortunately, doesn't have a heart like most of us fans.
Doesn't have a happy ending.
Yeah, waits for no man, and yeah, I mean, you probably could have scripted it almost when Figueiredo missed weight.
Yeah.
I asked you, is this the first time that a fighter fighting in a title fight, but the title hasn't been up for him, has won?
I wonder.
I phrased that badly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think it might be.
It might be.
Anyway, yeah, it's classic flyweight luck, as you said to me over the weekend. You couldn't write it.
Yeah.
Do I think they'll get rid of it? Personally, no, because they just don't have. I keep saying it. They don't have the big enough roster to fill every card that they want to do, so they need the division.
Yeah.
They'll end up doing what they do with the featherweight division, and they'll just put on fights when it suits them. The women's featherweight division, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the first thing that I thought watching this fight, or the only thing I was really thinking watching this fight, and I might have sent this to you while watching it, Sean, was, man, DJ would smoke these guys.
Yeah.
And I know DJ has smoked Joseph Benavidez, but something that Jack Slack always talks about the flyweight division, before like Dana White said it was going to go away, people just didn't care about it. And it was just true. Like, people like us who, you know, enjoy fights and enjoy watching technical guys, we did enjoy it. But when I was watching this fight, I was like, man, like, you can't even make that argument anymore, because as much as Joseph Benavidez and Deiveson Figueiredo are good fighters and they clearly have talent in certain areas, they're nowhere near like technical marvels. They're really not. Like, it was a very, very sloppy fight. Some of the transitions were brilliant, but when I was watching it, I wasn't looking at it and saying, man, this is what flyweight is all about. Yeah. This isn't like a technical masterclass. It just wasn't. It was a very, very sloppy brawl in a way, with some really good technical bits and pieces, especially in the scrambles. Yeah,
like they've kind of killed off the division, the UFC, without actually getting rid of it. As in, they cut a lot of guys. They got rid of DJ. Cejudo has no interest really in fighting there. They kind of put a title fight on there because they probably needed a headline for a card somewhere. Yeah, I agree. It's not what it was. It's not as fun as it was when DJ was there. Yeah, it's not what it was.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I don't think it's going to go away. I think they probably will do the rematch, or they'll do something with it. When they need a bit of a title fight,
when they need a co-main somewhere,
or a headliner for a fight night, they'll do it. Once they can sell it, even a little bit, they'll do it. So I think it's going to stick around. It's a shame for Joseph Benavidez. I think he seems like a good guy. Just can't get it done. But I do have to give credit. Good performance by Figueiredo. That was a lovely right hand. Like, I mean, Benavidez was like swiping at his eye because, you know, he was bleeding and he got caught in the half beat.
Really good finish.
A really good finish, and Figueiredo clearly has some power. But man, make weight next time, hopefully, if they're going to do this again.
I seen a stat though. This was before the weigh-ins. Figueiredo's only made flyweight limit once, 125. Sorry.
Yeah.
Once at Come on, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, the only caveat there is that he didn't have to make that before. Like, I mean, you make 126.
That's a cop-out.
Not really. Like, if you're in a non-title fight,
You 100% just make the 126 then.
yeah, exactly. So you just make 126. So, like, he's never fought for a title, so he didn't have to make 125. So I don't think it's really a bad look for him. It's a bad look that he missed weight now, but I wouldn't look at him and say because he never made 125 or he only made it once that he wasn't going to make it or it was a problem.
But I wouldn't be that impressed by it.
Fair enough. I don't think it was that bad. The other big news from the card was the stoppage. I'll just say the stoppage because everyone knows what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, we can't show a video, unfortunately, but
because the UFC will copyright us because they're pricks.
100%. But Kevin McDonald stopped the Ion Cutelaba fight. He was, of course, fighting Magomed Ankalev. If that's how you say it. I think I nailed it. I'm not sure.
Good effort, Rob.
It seemed like he was doing a bit of a rope-a-dope, a bit of playing a bit of possum, you might say, and the referee stepped in. Now, there's been a lot of people who fall on both sides. There's been people who say that, he was hurt and the referee was right to step in, or, you need to give him a chance to fight. He was playing possum. It shouldn't have been stopped. Where do you fall on it? And then we can get into it a bit more.
I totally see both sides of it.
Yeah.
I personally will give the referee the benefit of the doubt, and this is another example where I'd love to hear from Kevin McDonald himself. But I think if he thinks in his head that he has seen enough from the fighter to think that he's not intelligently defending himself, and that he's out on his feet, stop it.
Yeah.
If that's what he thought and he didn't stop it, then I think there'd be an issue as well. I think he obviously thought that the fighter isn't intelligently defending himself. He's out on his feet. I'm going to stop it. Grant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is another perfect example where if Kevin McDonald sat down for 10 minutes, gave an explanation why he stopped it, cool.
Yeah, because he can still be wrong.
Yeah, no, it's just an explanation.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with it, but at least he's trying to defend what he did.
Exactly. Like, we're assuming what he was looking at. Like, we're assuming, like, he was looking at Ion Cutelaba wobbling a little bit. That's what we assume. That's what we think that he was looking at, and that's the reason why it was stopped. Yeah. And the shots that he was taking, of course.
My first thinking when I saw it was, it looks a bit odd. I mean, if you're trying to play the rope-a-dope, it doesn't look like the smoothest or the best rope-a-dope ever, does it?
No, it doesn't. It looked a bit strange. But I will say that Big John McCarthy, of course, veteran referee, the most veteran of referees in MMA, the OG, he did talk about this on his podcast, Weighing In. I want to play the video for you, Sean, and then we'll come back because he gives his take on it, and he thinks it was a horrible stoppage, and then we can comment on it a bit more.
You gotta let him fight, though. You gotta let the guy. I mean, I'm not saying he should have let him fucking get KO'd face down, ass up, but he should have at least let him fight. Now, I will say this though: the fighter was doing something really strange that I haven't seen people do. Now, to me, it looked
he's
like
done it before.
Yeah, he looked like he was swaying a little bit, but I thought it looked like he was just trying to get into a rhythm. Go ahead.
I want to ask you a question. You're a fighter, and you have seen guys that are hurt.
Yep.
And then you've seen guys acting like they're hurt. What is it that tells you the difference? Come on, there's things.
Their legs.
Because if you're smart, absolutely.
Yeah, their legs.
It's your base.
Yeah.
So if you are the referee and you see this guy starting to do this thing, I don't look at this.
Yeah.
I look to see how is his base, because that's going to tell me. I step back and I look at the macro. I look at the entire package and I look at the base of the fighter. That tells me everything. You do not have a solid base when you are hurt. Watch the fight. As soon as he's not hurt.
Yeah.
He's doing his thing. No, I swear to God, I'm watching go, are you fucking kidding me? He's not hurt.
No.
There you go. So, as he said, he thinks that it shouldn't have been stopped and it was a horrible stoppage, he said. Now, I kind of agreed with you. Well, at first I thought, like, bad stoppage. I just thought it was a terrible stoppage. But then I was looking into it, and I actually seen a tweet from Pete Carroll.
Pete's tweet was very good.
Did you see this?
Yeah.
So he was talking about a kickboxer who fought in a fight, and essentially he died from the injury sustained in the fight afterwards. And when you watch the footage, it doesn't actually look like there's a whole lot wrong with him. If you're just watching it without any kind of medical background or experience. But they have this video where they have some doctors talking over the footage and explaining why, if they were in the position of the ringside doctor, why they would have stopped it. And essentially, one of the things they said was that if you see any gait disturbance, which is essentially gait is the way you walk, if you see any disturbance in that, like a guy kind of stumbling a little bit, you know that he's losing his balance because of some kind of issue with the brain. And that's something that wasn't caught by the doctor in that particular fight. So when you look at what was happening with Ion Cutelaba, I think you can make the argument that that did exist there, because there was clearly something wrong going on. Now, as Big John McCarthy argued, his base did look fairly solid. He wasn't really stumbling. Now, he did stumble after he threw that big right hand, but I think that's because he was he unbalanced himself, thrown wildly. But I do think when the referee is there and you're doing this weird behaviour, that you're
giving the referee a decision to make.
Exactly, you're giving the referee a decision to make that he shouldn't have to make. If he was doing that, which after watching it, it looked too strange. It didn't look like he was hurt that badly, because his base did look good. But you are giving the referee a decision to make, and I think that he has to be accountable somewhat for the referee making that decision. I really do.
Yeah, I've said this a million times before. I'm always in favour of an early stoppage rather than a late stoppage. I know fighters don't like that. As a fan who just wants to see the fighters come out of there safe, I'll always take an early stoppage.
Well, I will always usually take the side of the professional, and I think with Big John McCarthy, you do have to take his opinion seriously.
100%.
100%.
I take the part where he says, I think his base is stable and he's okay to carry on.
Yeah.
Grand. That's your opinion. I think you would let the fight. I think it's the bit I don't like is him calling it a horrible stoppage. I don't think it's a horrible stoppage. I think Kevin McDonald thinks that he has seen enough from the fighter to think that this fight should be stopped. Grand.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I think it's a fair argument though. Him saying that his base was there, that's fine. And it was only the upper that was moving in that rope-a-dopey kind of way.
I don't even think it's necessarily the first time I seen it. Only the fact that you had mentioned, but I had seen a lot of stuff before I actually seen the stoppage.
Yeah.
Only the fact that you had mentioned to me rope-a-dope, I wouldn't have really thought necessarily that he was doing a rope-a-dope on it. I mean, there's smoother ways to go about a rope-a-dope than what he was doing. It looked odd. It just looked really odd.
It did look odd. It did look very odd. But it also looked odder than him if he was hurt, if you get me. It didn't look like he was hurt.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily look like a rope-a-dope in the normal way you'd see it, but it didn't look like he was hurt either, for me.
I agree.
Then other thing was, we used to have a referee called Daniel Mulvahedi on.
Yes.
And one thing that he always mentioned was when he's looking at a stoppage or he's looking at potentially stopping a fight, the main thing he'll look at, or one of the main things, is the eyes and make sure that the eyes are still there. Of course, the base and the eyes. Now,
eyes never lie.
Yeah, now I don't know if we got a good view of that. Big John said that his eyes were still... I don't know if...
I think that's hard to say when you're not in there.
It's hard to say when you're not in there. I think you have to be right in front of it. Again, Big John, if you say that now you can see it from the from the screen, fair enough, you're the professional. Listen to Big John first. But I do agree with him when he says that his base was still there. But I can't not go back and look at that video that Pete Garrell posted of the kickboxer who was showing just some slight disturbances in the way he was moving and eventually died. So it's a tough one. Amanda Nunes says she wants to fight at UFC 250 for her first featherweight title defense.
She's in your own time, Amanda.
Yeah, so featherweight is a weird one in the UFC, the women's featherweight, because it doesn't really exist. There's no real division. You have a champion and you have a few fighters out there.
A few stragglers out there. You had some featherweights on the weekend win. You had Megan Anderson. And you also had, I'm forgetting the name, help me out, Sean, Felicia Spencer. Yes.
I got it. It looks like they're the only two real, I guess, potential challengers for Amanda Nunes. So, Sean, I'm throwing it to you. Who is going to challenge Amanda Nunes for the featherweight title? And do you care?
I want to see Amanda fight. Do I care about women's featherweight? Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it says a lot that Megan and Felicia just both got win.
Megan, Sean.
Megan, whatever. It's Megan. Fuck that.
Yeah, I've never.
Fight me, Megan. I think it says a lot about the division that they both got wins and suddenly now they're in a win and now suddenly they're in a title contention. And I think it's worth noting as well that the UFC, Instagram and Twitter were kind of pushing this one. As in, that was actually the first thing I thought as well.
Already pushing.
Just Felicia and Megan. Yeah, they were kind of like, next in line at 145 at women's. I'm like, Jesus, that division is thin.
It is thin.
That's way for thin.
It is.
Yeah, it's going to be a co-main of a pay-per-view. Do you know what it's going to be Usman Masvidal, and it's going to be Nunes and Megan. So that's what it's going to be.
Calling it here on a few good fights. Yeah, but who do you think should get it? Like, I think personally,
Megan. I don't know.
I think Felicia Spencer. Like, Megan Anderson is on, like, she's on a 2-fight winning streak, but I also think that her statement was hilarious.
Didn't see
I
it.
like Megan Anderson. I do.
Megan.
Megan Anderson. I like her. But she said, like, the reason why she should get a title fight is because she's the only woman a featherweight to be on a win streak.
Oh, Jesus.
It's like, it's one of the worst kind of, it's like, well, like, you're the only woman at women's featherweight apart from one other girl, so, like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think it should be Felicia Spencer because Felicia Spencer beat Megan Anderson very, very recently.
I think this is very much a case of you just announce that Amanda's defending her belt and you just say insert name here.
Yeah, she's going to defend their belt. We're going to have Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer get into camp, and whoever looks the best at the end of camp will throw them in there.
Yeah.
You're selling the fight on
Amanda
Nunes.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it. That's totally it. Like, and you're selling the fight on Amanda Nunes and a belt.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
No offense, of course.
Yeah, please don't hurt us.
Please don't hurt us. UFC 248. Adesanya versus Romero goes down this weekend, Sean. It's a phenomenal card. At least the 2 fights at the top of the card are phenomenal in my opinion, and I want to talk about them too, and I want to break them down. But first things first, John, Izzy and Romero, we spoke about it over the last few weeks. The right main event?
Yeah, hell of a fight.
Yeah.
Have no issue with the fact that Yoel is coming off a loss because the division needs to move on. Costa was next in line. He's not available. I mean, you could have given it to Till, really, but I think Yoel is just one of those perennial contenders. He's done 10 rounds with Romero, lost a split decision to him the first time. Yeah. I think the answer to the people who say he shouldn't have got it is it's Yoel Romero.
Yeah, I agree. Especially in this context.
Yeah, I think the context and it's Yoel Romero.
Yeah. Like the context for me is perfect because if you're designing the fighter to beat Israel Adesanya, it's going to be someone like Yoel Romero. And I mean, you can go back to the fact that Yoel Romero does not use his wrestling at all. Like, he uses it in the odd fight. And a lot of the time he'll use it at the end of rounds to win them. He won't really use it extensively throughout a fight. And I think that might be because, you know, he's holding a lot of muscle. He cuts a lot of weight. And maybe he doesn't think he can sustain a wrestling game over 5 rounds. But the fact is that he is a world-class wrestler, a really big puncher, against a guy who was a kickboxer and should have a deficiency in his wrestling game. So the fact that Adesanya has come out and said, I want to fight Yoel Romero, probably the worst guy in the division that I can fight, that's badass.
Yeah, I think that's why he called him. I think he feels he gets a lot of respect by going in, and if he goes in and wins a 5-round decision over Yoel and doesn't get touched, that, like, magic, yeah. As in, people, like, we always mention it, Yoel lost a split decision to Whittaker that a lot of people thought Yoel won. So if Adesanya can go in, win a 5-round decision, even knock him out and not get touched, that's fucking badass. That's a lot of respect on that win. So yeah, I agree. Big up.
So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's see how we see this one going. What are the odds, Sean? Do you have the odds in front of you?
Yeah, I don't have them in front of me. I looked at them earlier.
But you know what they are?
Yeah, I thought the odds were really interesting. Yeah, I think Adesanya is very short, I think. Yeah, he's 2-5.
All right.
So that's 1.4 in decimals. Yeah. I'm not even going to try to convert it.
We got 2 explanations in the comments.
And I understand. Sense, I understand the explanation.
You just don't have to convert it.
Conversion.
But what do you make? Off like £100 on a, what was the bet? What was
1.4.
So what do you make from that?
You make, if you put £100 on Adesanya, you would make €25, dollars, whatever.
Okay.
So that would be minus 125,
something like that. I don't know. I think we're on the right direction. We haven't quite got it, but we're
minus 125. No, that's too short.
Yeah, -4. I don't know. It's higher.
Yeah, minus 425.
Is that right?
No.
Fuck it.
I think I can work out Yoel's ones. Yeah.
We get, if you give us the odds now, we can work out what we're making off. We just can't backwards.
And then Yoel is best odds 23-10, which I think is a plus 230.
Yeah.
So if you put 100 on, you'll get 330 back.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I was just surprised that Izzy being so short. maybe I'm just I think we always have this with Yoel. You just look at him and you're like, fucking draw a superhero. I think Yoel at that price is a little bit of value. I'm probably going to pick Adesanya, but I think at those prices I'd be inclined to pick Yoel.
I think that's fair. So how I see this one, I do think Adesanya should be the rightful.
I think he should be the favourite.
Yeah, and I probably think it should be a little bit more. But I do see where Yoel Romero can get this done, because we did see when Adesanya got a little bit complacent against some guys where he can get hit. Like we've seen in kickboxing, of course, it's different. But we did see against Kelvin dropped him and landed some big shots. Now I think the one that he dropped him, at least in the first round, or the early one, remember the early one that he landed? It was very much a off-balance shot.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he was hurt by that one, despite Joe Rogan shouting, "He's hurt," which, it's...
Rogan's a fan sometimes.
Yeah, which is great. I like it. But I do see where Yoel Romero can land, especially because he has that weird style, kind of like Tyron Woodley, where like he lures you. Yeah, he lures you into his false sense of security and then land. And it was kind of like, do you remember the Anderson Silva fight when Adesanya fought him?
Yeah.
And I do agree with the people that say that Adesanya was giving him a lot of respect. I think that was happening. But I thought it was smart from Anderson Silva to be really reserved and then explode. Really reserved and then explode. And there was moments where he got really close to landing on Adesanya. And I would not be surprised if Yoel Romero lands big here. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him use his wrestling.
No.
I think you'll see him start slow, try to conserve his energy, because I think he knows himself. He doesn't have the build of a guy similar to McGregor. He doesn't have the build of a guy who can go 5 rounds. I'm not comparing McGregor's build to Yoel Romero, please.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean.
That type of guy.
Yeah, they're that type of build that they can't go 5 rounds at a hard pace.
Fast twitch, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
fast twitch
muscles or something. Whatever
the fuck that is.
Yeah, I wish I had it. I think you'll see him just sort of try and touch him out. I think the range is key for Adesanya.
Yeah.
If you can keep him on the end, of it, and then if he does explode, you have enough distance there to actually get out of the way.
Yeah.
I think that's key for Adesanya.
And the thing is with this one is that if Yoel Romero does fight like that, historically we've seen that he doesn't get hit very much. And with Adesanya, I think similar to Anderson Silva, he does fight a little bit better when people are a little bit aggressive towards him and he can counter. And I don't think Yoel Romero is going to give him a whole lot of opportunity to do that. So I'm very intrigued to see what kind of fight Adesanya employs, because if he does fight on the front foot and is really aggressive, that could be a little bit tricky.
I was just going to say, I think if he employed some Tyson Fury tactics here and totally...
As in Tyson Fury...
Wilder 2.
2.
Yeah, and totally tried to just smother Yoel, where that he couldn't actually get the space to get that explosive fast twitch off. That would be interesting.
It would be. And again, I did compare him to Tyron Woodley. And that's kind of, I thought, what happened with Woodley in his last fight, where he didn't really get a chance to get off with that explosive shot because he was just being swarmed.
Yeah.
And maybe Adesanya might employ something like that.
Yeah.
Although, does Adesanya have the physicality to do something like that against a Yoel Romero?
Yeah.
But Yoel might invite it as well.
Yeah. And if anyone can come up with a game plan for 5 rounds, it's probably the guys at City Kickboxing right now.
I agree.
Yeah, very interesting to see what tactics will be employed.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that. If Yoel Romero is to win this fight, how do you see it happening? I assume you don't see a decision.
No, he probably sparks him with something, doesn't he? Yeah, I think he catches him with something. Yeah. Something mental, like a fucking another flying Superman knee or something Yeah.
I agree. I think that's what it's going to be. If Adesanya wins, I don't necessarily see a finish either. Like, I think...
If Adesanya gets a finish, I think it's an accumulation of damage rather than one punch KO.
I agree. Because do you remember with the Romero-Costa fight? I think it was the Romero-Costa fight, and probably the Whittaker fight as well. And Costa, Whittaker I meant, was slamming to fucking Romero's body, and Romero was just walking through it. Yeah. Like it wasn't affecting him. And that's... Costa is a big puncher and a big kicker. Really, really big. Yeah. So, like, I was thinking maybe Adesanya will start to work the body and it'll be one of those finishes where he's hurting to the body so much that Romero just cannot continue. But then I watch something like that and I'm like, that guy is made of steel. So I'll be wondering.
The only finish I could see from Adesanya is an accumulation of damage really or something, or a decision.
Yeah.
And if it's a decision, I could see a wide decision.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I could see anything really. I think a lot of this fight depends on Adesanya because we know what we're going to get from Yoel.
I agree with that. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, Sean, how are you going on this one?
I'm going to take Adesanya by decision.
I'm going to follow you on that one. Adesanya by decision. If it's going to be a finish, I see it late.
Yeah.
4 or 5, probably 5, to be honest.
The only early finish I see is Yoel catching him with something mental.
Yeah. But yeah, let us know your pick in the comments below because we'd actually love to hear them and we'd love to debate and talk about them.
Can't wait to get it wrong and Yoel sparks Adesanya 10 seconds into the fight.
That is always there. Like my thing with predictions is predict on what you think is the most I guess likely scenario, but always have that caveat that this is MMA and anything can happen. So if you're the guy who comes out and says someone's going to win by a flying knee, or you mock someone for making a pick and it doesn't happen, don't be that guy.
Or if you're the guy that said Tyson Fury wouldn't knock a wank out, then
Oh, Sean. Weili Zhang fights Joanna Jedrzejczyj in the co-main event, and this is a really
interesting fight.
This is a really fun fight. It's probably the first fight for Joanna Jedrzejczyj where she probably believes that's gonna be a striking fight for the most part. Now, Weili Zhang does have excellent grappling from what we've seen, but I think if you're going to put money on a fight staying on the feet, this is probably one of them. And I think Zhang will be confident there as well. But yeah, how do you see this one? Not how it's going, but what do you think of the fight as a whole first?
Yeah, good fight. I think this division is quite fun because there's a lot of fun matchups because Joanna has lost some people, but she's also beat some people. Like MMA match wise, there's a lot of fun matchups to be there. And I think Weili Zhang being the champion is good for Joanna because if Rose is champion, I mean Rose has beaten Joanna twice. Andrade is still there, so like I think this is a really fun fight. I think standing up, I think Joanna can win this.
So do I. I've seen a lot of people pick Joanna. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to pick Weili. I'm actually a big fan of Weili, but I see it and I see a lot of people actually picking Joanna winning this fight. Yeah,
so the odds are quite interesting. Weili Zhang is a 4-7 favourite. And then you have Joanna Jedrzejczyj at a roughly a 6-4 underdog.
Interesting.
Although can be got as big as 8-5.
Well,
I'm looking at them on my phone here. Yeah, interesting. I wouldn't mind taking Joanna at that price.
Yeah.
Although I think they're fair prices. I think Joanna at that price is quite fair given our recent form. And I think Weili Zhang is probably quite a very fair favourite considering how she fucked up Andrade.
Yeah, and I also think with Joanna, we've seen a lot of footage from her. Like, I mean, Weili Zhang, a lot of people don't realise she has a lot of fights.
Yeah.
I think she has like 20 odd fights, doesn't she? I'll double check that now, but she's 19-1. Or, no, 20-1 actually. So, like, she has a lot of fights, but a lot of them were outside the UFC and they're probably very hard to get. At least I haven't really found many of them. So we haven't seen too much footage, and I think we're still learning a lot about her game.
You know what you get with Joanna at this stage.
You know what you get with Joanna. Like, she fights behind her jab very, very well. She has a great kicking game, but it's all fundamentals, which is good. Don't get me wrong. It's worked for a long time.
Yeah.
But we've seen with fighters like Rosenama Nunes, they have figured her out, and I do think that she is the type of fighter who can be figured out by someone like Weili.
Yeah, Joanna's really interesting to me because before Rose beat her twice, there was this kind of mystique about her, and she played up to it big time as well. The mind games and the boogie woman.
The boogie woman, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of, even for her, coming back from being discovered like that, from being opened up and taken apart really by Rose twice, to come back from that and to see her win a title again would be amazing.
It would be.
It'd be really cool because you don't often see fighters come back from something like that.
No.
So mentally and physically, I suppose, to do it would be very impressive.
And you have to remember, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like she has lost against more people, but she's only lost against Rose twice and Valentina. That's her only losses. Like, it feels like she's lost more.
Yeah.
I think it's because of the narrative around her, the narrative that she lost her boogie woman status. Yeah. But you do have to remember, she's only lost those fights. Yeah. So she's still in there. But for me, I think, as I said, she's kind of easy to figure out in terms of like what she's going to do. That doesn't mean you can't. That doesn't mean you can stop it. But I do think Weili Zhang can, and I feel like she's the more aggressive and ferocious striker. I feel like Joanna isn't that big of a like one punch type of fighter, whereas Weili can be. I think she can finish her and get her out of there. So I'm gonna go with Weili Zhang. I'm gonna go with a finish. I'm gonna say like a third round finish. Probably not like a one punch out of nowhere type thing, but more of an accumulation, kind of what we spoke about earlier. But I'm going to go with Weili Zhang, retainer title.
I'm going to make my pick based on the prices, and I'm going to take Joanna.
Nice.
By decision. Technical decision. Not a technical decision, sorry, but she fights her way to a very technical fight, and she wins by decision.
Very, very
so I'm
nice.
going to take.
We're not going to talk about any more fights on that card, but I do want to point out that Marco Madsen is on the card, a good European fighter. Very, very good. And also we have Beneil Dariush and Drakkar Klose under that fight, which is actually, I kind of like that one. It's interesting. But yeah, moving on. Did you see this stuff? So the UFC have come out to defend their fighter pay. Essentially, a report came out by the New York Post, I believe. The New York Post is the rag, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's the rag.
No clue.
Like it's a tabloid. It's not like the New York Times. It's like more of the broadsheet, and then you have New York Post, which is a bit of a like the Sun.
And the New York Times and stuff.
Yeah, but New York Times I think is more so like the good one, and the New York Post I think is more of the like the Mirror or the thing. So whatever. But anyway, they come out and they show the revenues that are spent or that are paid to fighters.
Yeah, I mean, we knew the proportion going to fighters was piss poor anyway.
Yeah, what was it, like 13%?
16%, I think.
Something very, very low. And now they've come out with another report saying that the MMA fighters who are currently in a lawsuit against the UFC and I think a few others are very upset with the UFC paying the like 300 million dividend from their cash reserves to their celebrity investors and their owners. Now, I thought this was very interesting because there's a few little bits and pieces that I looked into for this one, and I think it's actually very important for MMA fans to know this, especially if you're an MMA fan who follows the sport and the business side of it. I think there's a lot to it. So, Bloody Elbows business analyst John Nash, who we're big fans of, we read a lot of his stuff, he pointed out the stark difference between the UFC and their competitors. So their competitors mainly would be Bellator, and Bellator essentially in the year for 2014 their best revenue was only 1/10 of that of the UFC. So the UFC saying that they pay more than any other promoter in MMA is a bit of a red herring for me. So there's no like for like comparison there. And then he's done another comparison, John Nash, where he said if they add Bellator, their revenue, to the PFL and 3 other MMA organizations like of the other major ones,
than the UFC.
It combined for 1 billion, which is still and the UFC, sorry, the UFC has 90% of that revenue of all them promotions. 90%. So the UFC are in a completely different world than all these other promotions. So for them to come out and say that they're paying more than them, it's insane.
I mean, obviously you're paying more than them.
Yeah, obviously you have to be, and you should be paying a hell of a lot more because you're worth a hell of a lot more. Now, one other thing that I actually seen coincidentally last night was I was watching Miles Jury. Do you remember Miles Jury, former UFC fighter, fights for Bellator now? He has a YouTube channel, and I got suggested this video, and it was how much I got paid against Cowboy Cerrone, which was, I believe, a co-main event or else a main event.
Okay.
And he went through all the numbers, and I think you're going to like this one, or you're going to enjoy this thing. So he made 19k to show. He didn't win the fight, so he didn't get his win bonus, so I believe his win bonus would have matched that. Now, that wasn't actually his show money because he made 3k in a locker room bonus. So it was actually 16k.
Yeah, these locker room bonuses are important as well because in the lawsuit it has come out that there is undisclosed pay as well.
Exactly. So he made, his actual pay was 16k to show, 16k to win, I assume. He didn't mention that. And then it was a 3k bonus, so 19k. Now this is where I find it, or I think it gets very, very interesting because it's something that's kind of got lost in the shuffle, and it's something that people don't really talk about anymore. He revealed how much he made from sponsorships. And now this was a big one because back in the day, Brendan Schaub, and we have a screenshot of this here, Brendan Schaub, when the UFC announced their Reebok deal, he said that he has lost a serious amount of money because he used to make 6 figures in sponsorship pay for each of his last 6 fights before that. Of course, if you remember what happened, Dana White came out and disputed that and said that was nonsense, that didn't happen. And apparently Brendan Schaub showed...
I don't know how Dana would know how much guys are making on their own sponsorships.
Exactly. And I think it's funny because we're never getting Dana White in the show.
No.
Because Dana White always comes out and says, listen, we don't tell you what fighters make. How do you know? How can you say what they make? But Dana White done the exact same thing here where he disputed what Brendan Schaub said he made.
It's like when he came out and said, we're not judges when Jones
exactly
lost.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is there. But I thought this was interesting. So Miles Jury came out and he said, as I said, he explained how much he made, and he explained how much he made from sponsorships. What he made from sponsorships was 25k for that fight.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
25k. He made 16k to show from the UFC. So he made substantially more money than what he made from the UFC. Now this is where it gets really interesting. If you look at the Reebok's pay scale, the updated one, so the one from now, which has actually been bumped up since then, or since, I guess, Miles Jury left the UFC or whatever. If you look at what he would have made under that policy.
At the time, or what he would make now?
What he would make now, because
Okay.
the policy wasn't around, so he made essentially his own sponsorships.
Sorry, yeah.
So what he would have made from that policy, 5k.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
5k.
Yeah.
He would have made 20% of what he made from sponsorships.
Yeah. So, yeah, the question on the screen here is, are the UFC ripping off fighters? I mean, it's a pretty simple answer. The answer is yes. They're a private organisation. Private organisations aren't charities. I'm not defending the UFC here. I'm just totally saying how they run. Private organisations aren't charities. They're not doing anything for the good of the heart. They're a business. They want profits.
Yeah.
They're all about cost minimisation and profit maximisation.
They're doing their job well.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a shareholder in that company, you're like, fuck yeah, give me my dividend.
Yeah.
It's not the fighters are contractors to the UFC. In boxing, you have a
Contractors now.
Yeah,
like
that's the word.
No, they technically are.
That's the word. Like,
yeah, they are, but like they're not. Like they're
they're
exclusively.
They're totally not.
Yeah,
but that's the word that's used.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go with boxing, Anthony Joshua owns his own shows. So he pays a commission. He's
basically self-employed.
Essentially, he pays his promoter to promote.
Yeah.
Whereas the UFC pays fighters to get their heads kicked in, and they take all the money, and we'll give you a little bit.
Yeah.
It's flipped. The roles are flipped essentially.
Yeah.
And it should be flipped in. Someone will come in at some point, I think, and flip it.
Yeah, I think it will eventually happen.
Or either the UFC will be forced to flip it.
Yeah.
They're totally ripping off fighters. We pay more than Bellator. That's a cop-out.
Yeah.
The Reebok thing is a sham.
Yeah. So the Reebok thing, they've actually changed it. So it used to be called the Reebok pay scale. And I think now it's the athlete promotional. So it's you get money for wearing the Reebok gear, and then you also get money for doing a certain level of promotion throughout the fight week.
You also get money for monies associated to your t-shirt sold and stuff.
Yeah. So if you are, so the reason why I say he would have made 5k at the time is because for fighters with between 6 and 10 fights, you get 5k. So you don't start getting, like, the champions get 40k promotional.
Even
then, like, that's like if he had to make the same amount of money he made for what he previously made. Now, I mean, we're taking Miles Jury at his word, but like a co-main event of a huge card, like that was one of the biggest sellers of that year, and one of the biggest sellers probably of all time. If you have to look at what tier he would have had to be in, he had to have been in the 16 to 20 fights. Oh no, the 21 plus.
Sure, who's
21 plus fights he would have had to make 20k. So even still less.
Like if Brendan Schaub was making 6+ figures in his fights, I know people knew who he was. He wasn't a champion.
No, I mean he didn't even have his podcast back then.
If you look at, I'm just thinking, if you look at some of the sponsorships that guys had, like Anderson Silva was sponsored by Nike and Xbox.
Yeah.
There are some damn lucrative sponsorships.
Yeah.
I know that's Anderson Silva, so you're obviously taking something from the top.
Yeah.
But if you have Miles Jury making 25k, and then
well believe it, because they could have like multiple sponsors on their thing.
And then Schaub, who wasn't at the top of the division, making 6+ figures.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
That Reebok thing is a joke.
It is. It's absolute.
And there surely has to be grounds for loss of earnings, though.
Yeah.
I imagine that will come up in the lawsuit.
That's what's in the lawsuit. Yeah, loss of earnings.
But
now,
it's a sham.
A few caveats, as we said. Like, we don't know exactly all the money that are being paid, but we've seen enough now that guys like John Nash have reported on it, and they've shown that, you know, the money that they're making off these deals and all this stuff is substantially less than what they should be.
Yeah.
And then also the other caveat, it's up to the fighter. Like, it's all well us saying they're not being paid enough, but like if these guys if these guys aren't gonna, you know, unionize or mobilize with each other, nothing's gonna happen. Like, I mean, the UFC have just signed huge deals with ESPN. The fighters don't get anything from it, and like, I'm not saying that they have no one else to blame but themselves, but at the end of the day, like, us talking about it, people like Luke Thomas and everyone else who used to talk about it, like, that's doing nothing. It's up to the fighter to try and negotiate it, but also it's up to guys at the top to try and negotiate it. And unfortunately, they're the ones making the lion's share of the money, so they probably won't.
Yeah, I think, like the caveat, as you said, I think we've seen enough in all the redacted documents from the lawsuit and case from John Nash to say that fighters aren't in a position where they can maximise their earnings.
No.
Yeah, fighters, you got to look after yourselves here.
Yeah.
I know you might think you're looking after number one, really, at the end of the day, as in no one else is going to look after you. I think by unionising and mobilising as a group, I think you benefit fighters in the future and yourselves, really. Yeah,
a big boy has to do it. Some multiple big boys have to do it, I think. Up next, DAZN. So it looks like DAZN are, not looks like, it is. DAZN are officially expanding to 200 plus countries, including the UK and including Ireland. Sean, are you happy about this news?
Rob, I'm very excited about this news.
Me too.
Yeah, I've said it for years. Why can't I just pay €60 a month and have all my sports in one place? Why do I have to pay for BT Sport? This is why illegal streaming exists.
Yes, 100%.
Why do I have to pay for Sky Sports, BT Sports, Premier Sports? What else do I watch? I need Eurosport. I need Premier. I said Premier.
Yeah.
Then I need Amazon Prime to watch matches. Why do I need all this? And then on top of that, I have to pay for box office fees for BT. Yeah. And I would like to say I don't pay these, but I would have to have it all in one place. I would have to pay box office fees with BT and Sky, and then you have installation fees on boxes with all this and aerial fees. You're looking at $300 a month probably to have all of that. And now, if you look at the DAZN's offering in the likes of Germany and Canada, you're paying, say, $20 a month. I don't know what it is in Germany. It does depend on the territory.
Yeah. It's between 10 and 20 usually, isn't it?
In Germany or Canada, you pay $20 a month. You get Premier League, you get Champions League, you get the darts, you get the snooker, you get Bellator MMA, another PFL.
No, PFL is on Fox Sports.
Is it? They get another MMA organisation.
Yeah,
it might be.
so.
I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Combat America.
Yeah.
Is that it? Combat America. Yeah.
Combat Americas.
Not the biggest. It's another one that's there.
Fights.
Yeah. There's other stuff. You get all of Golden Boy Promotions boxing.
Yeah.
You get all of Matchroom USA's boxing. Most of the UK. And you get, there's another one, you get all, and then with Matchroom, because of that, you get Canelo, you get Triple G, Golovkin, you get pretty much all of the Anthony Joshua fights, you get Dillian White's,
there's a lot there.
For £20 a month.
Yeah.
If Canelo's next fight is supposed to be May 2nd, that fight alone is going to cost you $80 in the States. It's going to cost you £25 over here.
Yeah.
So instead you're getting it for £20 a month on top of all that other stuff.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
So, and then plus American sports that I don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
But then I might care, sorry to interrupt you, I might care when I can watch them for £20 a month on top of everything else.
Yeah. This is a bit of a game changer, I think.
I'm selling it.
Here.
Give me a free subscription now, will you?
Yeah, give us a sponsor or something, because we'll sponsor. Well, we'll shout it out, because for me, right?
I think it's amazing.
It is. For me, I haven't watched TV in a long time. And Sean, I mean, I haven't watched TV in a long time. I stream everything. I'm not saying I stream it illegally, but I stream it through whatever service I can get it.
All I watch is live sport.
Exactly, yeah. Same. And if I'm going to watch something on, some kind of entertainment, I'll go to Netflix, I'll go to Amazon Prime, I'll go to something like that. My life is a very portable life. I don't want to have to sit down in front of a TV with a cable box and stuff like that. So something like DAZN is very attractive to me, and I think it's a brilliant service as far as I've seen. I've never used it, obviously, but I'm very, very glad that's coming over here. Now, I told you this, that I listened to a podcast called Recode Media. Very good. Check it. Sean, you'll love it. It's all about the kind of business behind media, essentially. And they had an interview with the DAZN CEO, I believe, and John, you know his name, is it John Skipper? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
John Skipper, I believe that was who it was. And he spoke about how when he is going to bring DAZN into new territories, they're going to fight for the biggest rights they can, because they don't think they can survive in certain territories without it. So with DAZN coming to the UK and Ireland, that means they're really going to be looking for those Premier League rights. I guess Champions League rights, maybe, Sean. Yeah. They're looking at probably tennis.
Champions League are up quite soon, I believe.
Yeah, they'd probably be looking at tennis. What else is big in UK, Ireland, in terms of sports? You'd have football. You're
looking at football, really. Cricket, maybe, or stuff like that. But football is the big one.
Yeah, so they'd be looking at that. And now they currently hold Bellator, as Sean said, so you might get that through it. I guess. Depends on what kind of deal they have, if it's for over here as well. With
regards to the football, they already stream it in a lot of territories, so they have the relationship there with the Premier League and with UEFA for the rights. Yeah, I'm very excited by this. I'd pay 50, 60 euro a month to have all of that in one place.
Yeah.
Easy.
Stop saying that because they're
I know,
it looks
yeah.
like they're advertising for like 5 to 10.
Yeah, but that's because of what the offering is to begin with. So
Yeah,
like the offering to begin with in the UK and Ireland is going to be all of Matchroom USA
Yeah.
boxing. So that's not Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua is
Yeah.
signed to Sky Sports exclusively. This is a complicated one.
Yeah, go for
So
that.
Anthony Joshua won't be on the original offering in the UK and Ireland because his exclusive UK and Ireland broadcast rights belong to Sky Sports. That is up in 2021, I believe. I think it's pretty much a given that he'll move to DAZN because he's with Eddie Hearn. I think Eddie Hearn is going to do fuck all with boxing in the UK and Ireland until then, because he'll just DAZN
He's
will
raking in money.
DAZN will just give him more money to put on better shows in the US. So you're going to get a lot of them.
Yeah.
You're going to get Canelo, Golovkin, all these guys in the States, and I would assume some other US stuff as well.
Yeah.
But for a $5 or a $10 a month, you're getting
I'm all over
you're
it.
getting probably in May alone, you're probably going to have over $200 worth of pay-per-views for a $5 or a $10.
Yeah.
So-
So here's the thing.
And plus they do their own original content shows and stuff as well, and then you have it on demand.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'll be moving into a new home soon. Sky, Virgin, all them people, they're not getting any of my money apart from broadband, and I'll be paying for like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and DAZN, and then I'm good.
My Netflix and all. Well, I don't pay for my Netflix, but
Robbing some poor lads.
if I had to
Netflix.
pay for it, I wouldn't pay for Netflix if I had to pay for it because I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I would pay.
I make a lot. I use it a lot. So.
Yeah, I would pay money. I will pay for DAZN.
Same. Brilliant.
I genuinely will pay for
Yeah.
DAZN.
It's weird though for me is that it feels like movies streaming, like movie streaming, TV show streaming, all that, like took off a long time ago, and it seems like sports streaming.
Sport is so far behind, man.
It's so far behind, but I feel like it's one of the more like it's one of the things that should be natural. Like it should be a natural thing for that because like young people that watch sport, they want it to be portable. I want to be able to like say if I want to watch a match, I don't have to say, oh, I need to get home to watch this match. I want to be able to watch it on my phone and watch it like in the pub or something if I have to. You know what I mean?
I think the problem with especially football is quite slow. I think the problem Amazon Prime, the Premier League were quite happy with that and how it done, I believe. I think the problem is that the guys at the top are quite
Elderly.
conservative. They're not very forward thinking, and I think they believe it will go down the streaming route, but they're not.
They're not ready.
They're
to
not
do it.
keen to do it very quickly. If I was them, I'd be like, let's get in here first and
Yes.
do it. And I think what you're going to see as well is clubs will eventually move towards their own streaming in-house things as well, which I wouldn't be a fan of. But
same.
I think if the Premier League,
The Premier League said that they might have their own thing, though, didn't they?
what La Liga have, so the Spanish league, they have La Liga TV.
Yeah.
I can buy a subscription for La Liga TV and watch every La Liga match.
That's cool.
Deadly.
That's awesome.
Put that on.
Yeah.
Why don't DAZN just buy the rights to that? Or like,
Yeah.
why don't the Premier League just do that and let me pay, I don't know, £100 a year, grand?
Yeah.
Probably more than that, really. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think what clubs are afraid of is that their revenue from, because the Premier League rights are damn expensive.
Yeah,
We're talking billions of, and this is just for the English, UK and Ireland,
Yeah.
billions of pounds,
Yeah.
billions. They're afraid that their money, I think the conservative guys who run it are afraid that how are these people paying £20 a month and how does that equate to us?
They don't understand the model, essentially. Yeah. But I'm all for it anyway. Speaking of, we kind of spoke about Fury-ish, Anthony Joshua. Anyway, Anthony Joshua, his fight is announced against
Pulev,
Pulev.
June 20th.
That's announced. And it looks like Wilder versus Fury 3 is going to happen. Sean,
July.
explain to me what exactly is going on.
Yeah, so Fury and Wilder both going into the rematch, the second fight, both had rematch clauses. So whoever lost could trigger a third fight. And Wilder has done that. It's targeted for July in the new Las Vegas Raiders, is that it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in that new stadium in Vegas. That's why they want I think it would have been July originally, but they want to do it in the outdoor stadium. It's grand, whatever.
I assume there's no blockers, is there?
No. No mandatories really in the way.
Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to, they probably could have paid Wilder a lot of step aside money to make the Joshua fight. That would have been a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think if you leave it another few months, it builds it even bigger. They're going to talk a lot of shit to each other. I'm not overly excited by the third fight.
Yeah.
I think we see a more conclusive ending again, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of them things where because they had that clause, it probably was always going to happen. I think we kind of spoke about this, Sean. If Wilder didn't take the rematch, I think in a way, it'd be a bad look for him, and maybe he wouldn't have got back. I think there's just probably a lot of obstacles has to get through to get back there.
I think it's a payday.
Yeah, I think he's looking at it as a payday. Look, what age is Wilder? He's probably coming near the end.
30s, yeah.
He's in his 30s, yeah. I mean, he's took a lot of damage in that last one. We'll see. I'm not usually optimistic for his
but yeah, that's happening.
thing, but that's happening. But yeah, we'll see what happens in that one. But that's it. Anything else, Sean?
Nothing from me, sir.
Nothing from me either. So what I want to do is I want to move on and I want to get into some fan questions because we have some good ones. So let's go. So it's now time for that part of the show where we answer your questions. My favourite part of the show. So let's jump straight into it. First question from Ethan Roy. Was this weekend the true unofficial end of the flyweights? And should the UFC try to trim its roster in general or maybe create like a relegation organisation? We'll start with the first part. Do you think this was the true unofficial or maybe official end of the flyweight, Sean?
It's a good question, that one.
I think it's a big question coming out.
I think it is a big question. I mean, we've already seen actually that they're talking of booking the rematch. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I think they have too many cards to actually start cutting divisions totally. But I mean, if anything is going to be the end of the division, you said it to me, that's the most flyweight thing to ever happen, is the guy who can't win the belt wins the fight. Like,
yeah.
If anything's going to kill it off, it's probably going to be this. I personally think we'll see a women's featherweight style thing with it.
I agree. I think if the UFC believe that there's some fights to be made and profitable fights, they'll probably keep it around. And I think they could probably make some money off that. Like when I go back and now look at, say, Demetrius Johnson's flyweight run, something that we never really spoke about or kind of thought about, or maybe something I didn't explicitly say, was when the UFC had them fights going and had them fights on with Demetrius Johnson, he was making a lot of money relative to what he was probably bringing in. But you look at, say, the guys who fought this weekend, Figueiredo and even Benavidez. I
didn't see purses for them, actually.
I didn't see purses, but I can guarantee that they made a hell of a lot less than what Demetrius Johnson made, especially considering Demetrius Johnson at one point used to make pay-per-view money. He didn't. He got then a deal like to get more money up front. So, like, if you're looking at, say, a rematch with those guys, say on even like a co-main event of a pay-per-view, they're not spending a whole lot of money to put that on. It might attract some people, not very much. They're not going to attract a lot, but I think it's like, it's not a big deal for the UFC to keep that around.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, there's no... What's the reason other than like Dana has a bone to pick with the flyweights to get rid of it? I don't really see the point. I mean, there's a lot of fun fights at flyweight. You see some crackers over the years. And from a purely business point of view, to go on to the next part of the question, is it time to trim the roster? That is the last thing the UFC need to do right now. Yeah. There's so many cards. We're on a run now of like 12 cards in a row, aren't we?
Something.
There's far too many cards. There's too many cards for a start. So it's like, it'd be ridiculous to start trimming the roster and to create a relegation organisation. I think
how would they even look?
Yeah, I think then, even with forgetting how it might look, I think to do that would then, you're diluting the product.
Yeah.
And I don't think the numbers it would do would be very good at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make more sense for the UFC to buy a smaller organisation and have it as its bona fide feeder, which is essentially what they do with Cage Warriors anyway, except they don't own it.
Yeah.
In Europe,
they show it on Fight Pass, so I assume there's some kind of thing. They have Invicta, which is almost like a feeder league as well. I think LFA is now on Fight Pass, which is good, and they've been a de facto feeder league for the UFC for a long time. But yeah, I think trimming its roster, I don't think that's the right move right now because, as you said, they have too many fights. But yeah, I don't think Dana White ever had a bone to pick with flyweight.
No.
I think it was purely numbers. You know, like the UFC are too big of an organization not to have data analysts, and I'm sure they had plenty of analysts saying, "Listen, flyweight is the least drawable or popular division that we have," and that's where it all came from. It had to have been, because there's no way it can be just one guy on some kind of crusade against a division. There just can't be that. Lunchbox, this is a long one, but we'll get to it. After watching the best female, I guess this is the best a female featherweight can offer, is it reasonable to expect the UFC can find enough females to fill the top 15 in the next few years? Let's be honest, not one of them moved impressively, and they look like an average girl in other UFC female divisions. Certainly not worth top 3 spots after 2 divisions. So he's saying that he likes female MMA as much as anybody else. I agree. It's kind of a weird argument, a weird one, because like anytime I've found that I've spoke about women's MMA not being up to scratch. There are those few comments saying, "Oh, it's because they're women." No, it is what it is. It's just not that deep female MMA. So, do you think that the UFC could fill a top 15 of good female fighters in all their female divisions over the next few years?
Yeah, I do. I think it's harsh to say that they're not worth top 3 after 2 years. I mean, 2 years is a tiny span, really.
Yeah,
2 years isn't enough for a generation to fill a top 15. As in, there's still some thin divisions in men's MMA, and the men's MMA is around a lot longer than women's MMA. Yeah. So I think in like the next 15 years, you're going to have a lot deeper women's divisions.
Yeah.
Part of the problem as well is, I think we spoke about this before, in America, women go to other sports. A lot of the top women come from Eastern Europe and stuff, like places like that where there is specific programs, like the sports like that are bigger for women over there.
Yeah.
Whereas in the US, realistically, you need the US to have a good MMA program to fill divisions, just purely on a numbers thing.
Yeah.
Similar to China, I suppose. If China kind of blew up at MMA, if Zhang could get it really going over there. But women in America go to soccer, basketball, other lacrosse, hockey, all that stuff. There's gymnastics. There's far more sports for them to go to rather than MMA. So I think when you see that grow, then you'll see the filling out of divisions. But even that takes. So if you have to get to 6, 7-0 before you're getting looked at by the UFC, that's still a couple of years to fill a division.
Yeah.
I think over the next 10 years you will see the next generation coming along.
Yeah, we spoke about this with Jimmy Smith a few weeks ago. Yeah, and even he said it. It's like you do need a lot of fighters in those divisions to create good fighters for those divisions. It's just the way it works. And I was watching actually Joe Rogan's podcast with Angela Hill. Did you see that?
No.
So Angela Hill was talking about the misconceptions of female fighters training with male fighters, saying that it's actually not that beneficial. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're training with men, so obviously you're going to get better, and when you face females, it's actually probably more beneficial." But what she was saying, like, men and women are so different in the way they fight that sometimes it's actually a little bit counterintuitive to train with males.
That would also make sense as well, to be fair.
Because like a 135-pound male fighter is very different than a 135-pound female in terms of their body composition, because they just hold weight in different places. The way they move, everything. So I think with female MMA, I think we will get there. But if you look at the history of female MMA, realistically, when women were looking at the sport, it's only been viable as an option since Ronda Rousey got to the UFC, because that's when MMA for females really took off, and probably even a little bit after that, and that was 2013. That's not that long ago. That's 7 years ago, So we still have a ways to go, but I think it's going to be still thin for the next few years. Yeah, but maybe 10.
And you can see the evolution already, as in when Ronda was coming up, murking everyone and armbarring everyone. I mean, she looked like unbeatable, and then there is someone who comes along. So Holly beat her, then Amanda came along and fucked up everyone.
Yeah.
So someone will come along and beat Amanda, someone will come along and beat Valentina, and it just drags the sport up with them.
Exactly, yeah.
As in someone has to come along and beat them. Yeah. So it just drags it up with them.
Yeah. And as they're making more money, it'll become a more viable option for them. The second part of the question was, how do you fix, or what's your solution to the judging problems in MMA? We spoke about this
is a one-word answer.
Education.
Education.
But if you want to get really deep on it, here's I think what you definitely have to fix.
Yeah.
So I don't think the system is the problem, because as we discussed, it's, if you have educated judges, you can make any system work.
Yeah, exactly.
But the commissions need to stick to one system. Don't have a different system throughout different
This is the problem with state-by-state regulation.
Yes.
So if you have a US MMA association, and they're the overarching body for MMA in the US, and they say, okay, we're adopting the new unified rules, and that's in every state. The problem is you go to Texas and the rules are different, and you go to California and the rules are different.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have one system and you can educate to that one system across the whole of North America and then the whole of the world, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Next up, Rory McGrath. Wonderboy Thompson is looking to fight in Dublin. I didn't actually see that, but that's cool.
Big fan.
Do you think that could be the main event? And if he does fight in Dublin for the main event, do you think that's a snub to Dublin from the UFC? I don't believe it's a big enough name for this event or for this main event. Sean, I'll throw this one to you first. Do you think that this will be a snub to Dublin if Wonderboy headlined?
No, I disagree totally.
Yeah.
I'd be, if Wonderboy was headlining, I'd be buzzing with that. Big fan of Wonderboy. I would absolutely love to see him live in Dublin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
I mean, sorry to cut you. He's coming off a win as well. It's not like he's coming off a loss and he'd be headlining, just they'd be kind of using the Wonderboy name. I mean, he's coming off a win. Welterweight is kind of open for him now, with Woodley having lost, I suppose. So yeah, I think Woodley be a deadly headliner in Dublin.
That's a good point. Like, I mean, if Wonderboy headlines in Dublin, or just headlines, his next fight, anyway, regardless of where it is, could potentially be a number one contender fight. That's a big fight. And this is a guy who has competed for a title, twice?
Twice, yeah.
Or 3 times? At least twice, anyway. But, like, when I saw that the UFC were coming to Dublin, I immediately thought, it's going to be a terrible card. I just did, because historically, over the last few years, the UFC have put on poor cards outside of North America. They have done some decent cards in, say, China and places, and Brazil, where they want, maybe where they can do pay-per-view, or in Australia because they can do pay-per-view there. Even the UK sometimes. But like outside of that, you know, all these European cards have been fairly poor.
Yeah.
So if Wonderboy headlined, I think that's actually quite a good name.
Yeah, if you had, I mean, Felder's talking of coming to Dublin as well. If you had Felder and a co-main, you're going to have Gunny on the card. I'd be pretty happy with that. Because we said as well, we kind of thought it'd be a shit card, because Bellator signed up here in Ireland. So yeah, if you had Gunny, Felder and Wonderboy on the card, I'd be pretty happy with that. Yeah,
like, I mean, go back and look at the last UFC Dublin card. Now, granted, the main event was supposed to be Poirier versus Joe Duffy, but Poirier, I would argue, is in a similar position to Wonderboy. Like, they're both, like, Poirier won an interim title, but Wonderboy and him would be considered at a very similar, I guess, standing in their divisions.
Both coming off losses.
Yeah, and then
it's not both coming off. Poirier is coming off that interim title loss.
Yeah. But like, what I mean is, like, if you look at, like, say, past, I guess, main events, I think a Wonderboy main event would stand up very well to those.
I think it would, big time.
Especially considering the last one, you know, that fell out, and then you had Paddy Houlihan against Louis Smoker. Love Paddy Houlihan, but you know what I mean.
I would absolutely love Wonderboy to headline UFC Dublin.
Me too. Do you want to take this one, Sean?
Yeah. Max B says, Conor said he is going into the 2020 season, but with Cejudo fighting at 250 and Volkanovski versus Holloway being targeted for 251, when will McGregor's next fight be announced, and against who? Don't forget Masvidal and Usman will most likely main event somewhere. My prediction, Conor will fight only twice this year, fighting again at the end of the year. Yeah,
so according to the reports, at least from last week, it looks like it's going to be Gaethje. So hopefully that gets announced for somewhere. But I also seen something today, Dana White on TMZ, and one of those classic TMZ
in your face videos.
Yeah, comes out of a cafe and some lad runs into you. He said that he still wants to see the rematch, the McGregor-Khabib, but he also said that he doesn't think that McGregor will want to wait around. So hopefully it will be that. I wouldn't be surprised at this point, considering we haven't got any kind of announcement, if McGregor doesn't actually fight again until potentially getting that rematch, which would be, I think that'd be a terrible decision.
Yeah,
be awful on all, like, for McGregor it'd be bad, and for the UFC I think it'd be bad.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see the Gaethje fight, say, a month or two after. I don't think they'll announce anything Khabib Ferguson, personally.
Do you think they're gonna, like, let him go into camp and do the whole, like, if someone falls out he steps in?
I don't think they'd be very keen to, because they want the promotion around a McGregor fight as well, but I just don't see them announcing anything pre-Khabib, because even Gaethje might step in.
Yeah.
And then if they did Khabib, or if they did Conor Gaethje June, and then like Conor versus the winner, or if Conor wins, October. Because obviously Khabib, if he wins, is going to have to go through Ramadan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised to not see them if they didn't do the Gaethje fight and we don't see McGregor till October, November. I hope not, because I think it's bad for McGregor, like you said. He's basically said the reasons why he wants to fight regularly, because it keeps him occupied, keeps him out of trouble.
Yeah.
So if we see McGregor idle until October, November, I think it's bad for him.
I think it's a bad one. Yeah. Danny Nor W. Why is Israel so hyped when he clearly struggled on his way to the title? He was extremely close to getting TKO'd by Gastelum, who brain farted and shot for a takedown instead of a follow-up. He also got a split decision against a 21-year-old Marvin Vettori and several other decisions. He fought Whitaker, who had been inactive for years and suffered from physical injuries and mental problems. He's lucky to got Yoel and not Costa.
Disagree with every bit of that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think he's rightfully hyped. I think what Israel Adesanya has done over the last couple of years since moving to MMA has been nothing short of impressive. And I think, Gastelum is an excellent fighter. I think everyone he's fought has been an excellent fighter, apart from the guys like Marvin Vettori, who's still developing. But he's a tough guy, and
that was one of Izzy's first fights in the UFC as well.
Yeah, like these are the type of fights where guys like Izzy have to learn. Like he's coming from a kickboxing background, and he's learning not on the job, but he's learning how to defend takedowns against these guys, and make his game work. So I think that's not fair, to be honest. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shite in that, to be honest. I wouldn't say extremely close to getting TKO'd by Gastelum. I agree Gastelum brain fat big time with the takedown attempt. But I mean, we've seen enough from Izzy in the fight as well, where he had taken a few shots and come through it. So I think it's harsh to say that he would have been KO'd.
Yeah. I guess as well, I'd like to know from Danny, like what does he mean by so hyped? Because like when I say when someone says to me,
he's backed up every bit of hype.
Yeah, but when someone says to me like someone almost got TKO'd by Kelvin Gastelum, like even if they got KO'd, I don't think that they're not a good fighter. Gastelum is an excellent fighter. I think you have to put that into context as well. So yeah, I don't agree with that one in particular, but yeah.
Then the split decision, I'm breaking this down bit per bit.
Go for it.
Because the split decision against Marvin Vettori, I mean, it was one of his first couple of fights in the UFC. It was a really good learning fight, to be fair.
Second fight in the UFC. Yeah.
That's a damn good learning fight for someone just coming into the UFC, a split decision like that. I mean, you can argue, maybe he was lucky. I can't just remember the fight, but I mean, what he's gone on to do since then, I mean, you can argue, he's only improved since. So if you put him in again, you can imagine it would be a lot more conclusive. Fought Whittaker, who'd been inactive for years. I mean, he fairly fucked up Whittaker as well, so it's not like he re-ambled to a split decision win against an inactive Whittaker. I mean, Whittaker had gone 10 rounds with Yoel as well, so that's
very impressive.
Yeah. Physical injuries, mental problems. I mean, you can get into that if you want. Izzy, I'm sure Izzy had injuries in camp as well that you just don't hear about. He got lucky. He called out Yoel, so he didn't get lucky that he got Yoel. So
Costa seemed to not be available.
Costa was next, and only he got injured. So if Izzy comes through this, then Costa will be next.
Yeah,
and I've seen nothing from Izzy to assume that he would duck Costa. So
yeah, and to be fair, Yoel and Costa were neck and neck in the fight that they had. So
that was a split decision. So
yeah, that was a split decision as well. So yeah, disagree with your take on that one, but yeah.
Let's go. I'll take this one. Just because of the name. Yeah, Shag Cap at 1970 says, Felicia Spencer looked good in that last fight. My friend and I were talking about it. We think there's a chance she's just tough enough to survive Nunes and possibly wear her out and beat her. Is that crazy to suggest, or is it something quite possible?
I think she could. Like, I mean, I wasn't hugely impressed. She did look quite good, and one thing I did take from it and take from Nunes' last fight was that Nunes can get tired, and against Jermaine the Randomie, even on the floor, Nunes, you could see she was stalling a little bit, and if she comes up against somebody who seems to have a fairly good gas tank, who seems to have a good ground game, and seems to be quite durable, even based on her last fight before that, Felicia Spencer as well. I mean, she could be a bit of a good underdog against someone like Amanda Nunes, especially when we always talk about this, Sean, when someone like Nunes gets so good and they're on such a good run, someone who has, who's pretty good everywhere and can just stay in the fight and maybe, just maybe last and outlast their opponent, like Felicia Spencer could do it. I wouldn't bet on it, but you never know.
Yeah, we always say this with people like John Jones and Amanda and Valentina. It's hard to pick out the one, so you can't really discredit anyone in that sense either. Like you, I wasn't overly impressed, but who knows? I mean, she's obviously improving fight by fight, so you wouldn't know.
She looked good.
Quarter Horse says, how long till Stipe is back? If DC wins and retires, I assume he means the trilogy. What then? Stipe versus someone. Will any refs, judges, commissions be held accountable or called upon for explanation? I assume this is a totally separate question. I feel like something terrible has to happen before the whole MMA world steps its game up. Update on the Reaper and family. Do you want to take the first part of that with Stipe?
So he had some kind of surgery, didn't he? And he said he didn't want to rush back.
Eye surgery or something, was it?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I don't think it's going to be for a while based on that. Probably, definitely second half of the year.
Yeah, it sounds like he's not in a rush either.
Yeah, probably September-ish. If DC wins and retires, what then? They'll obviously vacate it, and then probably Ngannou if he beats Rosenstruck against maybe Stipe, or maybe they'll just pull the trigger and John will say, fuck it, I'm coming up, and we'll do like a vacant title or something like that. The judges and refs held accountable stuff. I fucking hope so, because it needs to happen. You know, as we kind of spoke about last week or the week before, whenever it was, when we heard Mark Goddard kind of giving his take on a stoppage, I thought that was brilliant, and it kind of shed some light on why he stopped the Colby Covington fight. And I think if we saw more of that, there wouldn't be so many questions about a lot of close decisions and even judgments in terms of judges. And I agree, like with I don't know about this, something terrible happens. Anytime I read that, I just think of weight cutting. I think something terrible going to happen before they stop weight cutting, or at least, you know, fix it a little bit. And Reaper and his family, I'm not actually sure. Haven't heard anything.
Don't know. Yeah. How long till Stipe? Yeah, I don't think Stipe is in a rush back. Don't think he's in a rush to give DC the trilogy either.
No.
If we do see it and DC wins and retires, I think Stipe could easily fight for a vacant title coming off a loss.
Yeah,
I think he's done enough, more than enough in the division to fight for a vacant title. If they wanted to do Ngannou and Jones, Ngannou Stipe Jones, I back every single one of those. Yeah, I think to be honest, I don't really see judges, refs, commissions being held accountable anytime soon.
No.
I think they should be.
Too protected.
I've said it many times, I think they should be, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. And to be honest as well, I think the first thing I think of when I think of or see this feel like something terrible has to happen, I think of doping. Yeah, I think something terrible probably does have to happen, to be honest. I think something bad is going to happen, and it's going to come out that someone was juicing on a PED, on a steroid, and then it's when it's going to be like probably kicked up a fuss. Unfortunately, I just think that's what's going to have to happen, because there's a long and rabbit hole argument to be had on USADA and what they're actually catching, because they're just behind on what people are doing. Because these things are illegal, you can't actually test them, and you don't know what they actually do, so you can't actually test for them because they don't know what they're testing for.
Yeah.
So what they're testing on is stuff that used to be legal and is now illegal, and they actually have data on. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Sweet. David Little, how is Michael Bisping cleared to fight after his eye injury? Do you think he kept it secret from the UFC? Surely fighting and winning a world title with one eye has to go down as one of the most badass things ever. So there is a bit of an answer to this one, so we don't have to speculate.
Yeah, he's given a bit of an answer.
Yeah, so he did hide it from the commission, at least on fight week. So the reason why he wore sunglasses, apparently, according to Bisping himself, was because he wanted to hide his eye because it was all fucked up during fight week. Now, I'm sure he had to be checked by a UFC doctor before fights. Like, that had to have happened. So I'm not sure how we got around that bit. So maybe we can ask Michael Bisping when we talk to him next, if that ever happens. So yeah, I think that's it. But also, I think it's one of the most badass things ever.
With one eye, that is badass, man. I would be very surprised if someone within the UFC didn't know how bad a shape his eye was in.
They had to have known.
Like, this is kind of some of the cowboy days in MMA, where like...
It's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
As in, not everything was totally above board, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Towards the latter end of his career, it probably just got to a stage where we've let him fight through it this long. And I'd imagine Bisping had like some sort of agreement with Dana that if you let me fight, I won't sue you if something bad happens.
Yeah.
Just let me fight. Like,
some kind of, agreement.
As in, we'll look after you if something happens. Don't sue us. I mean, it is pure cowboy stuff.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, one of the most badass things ever, 100%. Yeah.
Agreed.
Zenebrem. Felicia again. Felicia Spencer was great on the ground, but vulnerable on the feet. Should she fight Jermaine Durandame as a test to see if she can take that fight to the ground?
Maybe. It looks like Amanda Nunes is going to fight soon. UFC 250, I think we said. So she needs an opponent. I'm not sure who it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be probably her or Megan Anderson. So, I mean, I don't think she's going to learn a whole lot by fighting Jermaine de Randamie. Like, if she goes in there and fights Jermaine de Randamie, is she going to be any more fit to fight Amanda Nunes after that? I don't think so. So I don't see a reason for it there, but maybe it will shed some light on what she can do. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a fight I'd be mad excited to see.
No.
It's grand, I suppose.
Yeah, it's grand.
It's grand. It's like I don't know, it's somewhere on a main event or main card maybe.
Yeah.
Grand. It's an Ebrahim again, Rob.
Yeah. Kyler Phillips dominated Saturday night. He and Bryce Mitchell lost to Brad Katona on Tough, and Brad was recently released by the UFC. Do you think Katona is better than them and was wrongly released, or that the inability to game plan with a full camp is why they lost to Katona on Tough? Interesting. A bit of MMA math here. It's very hard to say. Like, I mean, Tough is a very different thing than fighting normally. We've seen it a lot. We've seen guys who performed pretty badly on The Ultimate Fighter and then performed excellently when they had their own camp, their own environment, and as he said, a full camp. So it's hard to say. It's a bit of MMA math there. I think you still have to give credit to Brad for winning on The Ultimate Fighter and beating the guys. But potentially if they, were in their own, their usual conditions, it could have went the other way. It's a shame that Brad Katona got released in a way, because I do think he had a lot more to show, but he'll probably be back.
I think that's a good point about the difference in Tough and the UFC.
It's very different, yeah.
I mean, I think the Tough format suits guys who come up through the amateur boxing scene, because that's the type of scene we only find out the day before who you're boxing.
Yeah.
So you don't get to game plan. It's more it's based on technical skill, really. Whereas the UFC, you can put a game plan together, and that suits some guys better, whereas finding out the night before suits some guys better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then having your own coaches as well can change 100%. Things as well. Yeah. I think that's it, is it?
I think that's it, Robert.
Sweet. What a show. I cannot wait for this weekend. I'm actually really looking forward to the card, UFC 248. Make sure you do give your predictions in the comments below, because we'd love to hear them. We'd love to debate. And also, give us your answer to any of these questions that were asked on this week's show.
Can you send us in guest suggestions as well? We want to get some more interesting guests on the show. So we have a couple lined up, a couple of good ones. But yeah, send us who you want us, who you'd like us to get on, some interesting ones.
Yes, and make sure you send us some questions as well usually of a Tuesday.